Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast episode number 15. I'm your host, Jamel Crothers. It's Book Insight Friday. Today is The Struggles and Growth of a Man, Part 4. Heading toward the end of the series, so next week will be Part 5, and then I'll figure out what direction I'm heading in. Last week I spoke of how I'm going to be incorporating Michael into the series. So yeah, he has a little bit more say in part 4 of this series, and his storyline kind of starts to get incorporated into all this. And once I knew I was going to do all of that, now becomes the question of how do I correlate Michael's life with Robert's life. And yes, they're brothers, but they've been apart for 5 years, so now it's building their relationship again. It's getting them acquainted again, and getting them to know each other, because they've grown since the last time they've seen each other. So that's important in any sort of relationship, is that you have to make sure that you're making the storyline believable, and you're allowing people to learn of Robert more, but then also allowing people to learn about Michael and who he is as a man. The start of this book, I had to start it off with Michael going back to the old neighborhood and paying an ultimate price for doing that. So it wasn't easy for me to do that, but I knew that, okay, part 3, Robert goes back, and he felt uneasy, and had to get away. Part 4, I had to say, all right, well, let me have Michael go back, but something happens, and it changes the landscape of not only the book, but of the rest of the series in a way. And part 4 is the last of hearing Michael and Robert's story, and how they've grown and things of that nature, because part 5 takes another shift, and I'll go into that next week. But then the next aspect of it is Robert is starting to figure out his life, and he wants to get out of the city that he's grown up in, because he's a better man, and he's becoming someone that he wants to be. And Robert has this ultimate dream to become a motivational speaker, and he knows what it takes to get there, but he can't stay where he is. The problem with that is that Michael just got back home, and he's getting used to being back home, and he doesn't live in the urban area. He kind of lives with Robert in the suburbs, but Michael's not ready to leave. And Michael, you start to see his softer side after being in prison for 5 years and having to play a tough persona, and that's no fun. And Michael is starting to reflect on his life, and he wants to follow in his big brother's footsteps. So there's this reluctance to leave, but he's also understanding that Robert knows in his heart what's right for him, and what's right in the situation that they're currently in. So throughout this book, in part 4, there's back and forth dialogue of what their thoughts are, and that becomes the main focus of the book, and you start to see their relationship culminate into something special as the book progresses, and you start to see that both brothers are leaving the dark tunnels that they've been engulfed and entrenched in for so long, and now they're starting to come into their own and becoming the men that they want to be and not what society wants or expects them to be. And I had to write that because there are too many times we as men become fixated on what society wants and expects of us. And I know that, it's not easy. I mean, for me, speaking on experience, I've felt that a lot of my life I've had to conform to what society wants me to be. And there are all these expectations of us that we have to be strong, and we have to be mentally tough, and we have to be physically strong, and nothing can bother us, and we have to constantly be working towards something, and we have to be better than everyone else, and all of that takes a toll on us mentally. And sometimes we need someone that is a great listener to fully understand what we're thinking about and going through. Notice that I said a great listener, not necessarily a responder or just a talker. Because a lot of times, in this series, I've, written content that not only relates to me, but relates to a lot of my friends, a lot of other men that, deal with certain things in this world. So part 4 is really a culmination of, okay, we're growing and now we're leaving the city that we've grown up in. And that situation is exactly what I'm experiencing right now. I left a place that I've grown up in the majority of my life in the Northeast, and now I live on the West Coast, and I am much better off. And I'm not saying from a safety concern or anything like that. I'm saying that from a mental aspect of it. Like, my mental health is a lot better where I'm currently living, and it's because I'm in a warmer climate, and that affects my mood. I don't care what anyone says. Warmer climate boosts your spirits. It makes your mood better. It gives you a clearer perspective on life. Let's just say I have views of mountains where I live on an everyday basis, and I take the time to embrace that on an everyday basis. But anyway, The Struggles and Growth of a Man, Part 4. Well, I'm not going to go into reading excerpts from the book or anything like that. I just want to really delve deep into how important it was for me to utilize Michael and Robert to bring out a message on life and situations and things that we're all going through as men. And for, the amazing women who are listening to this podcast, I thank you. But I just want to say that, not only do we need as men the comfort and the listening aspect of it, we need the support, especially if we're working on improving ourselves in our lives. And that's what I wanted to bring out in part 4 of this series. And I feel like I accomplished that. I know that there will be other opportunities and in other books that I will write in the near future that will allow me to address other men's issues that we deal with and we go through. And I'm very thankful for, various content that, I've read about, seen, things of that nature. Sadly, I wrote this book like years before this podcast and show called I Am Athlete that has former NFL athletes who speak on just various things that are going on with them, and not necessarily just the fame and the money, but also the mental health that they deal with and go through. And it features Brandon Marshall, who's a former wide receiver, Chad Johnson, who's a former wide receiver, aka Ocho Cinco, Fred Taylor, who's a Hall of Fame running back, and Channing Crowder, who is a former defensive player in the NFL. And those are the four main guys who, speak on, just various men's issues and relationships and money and investments and just so many things. And they speak their truth, which is, a wonderful thing. A lot of them don't hold back on life experiences. So they will definitely, be an inspiration and motivation for me to write about a lot of, experiences that we as men go through in life. So The Struggles and Growth of a Man is just, I think, the most crucial book in the series, because now they are shifting their lives from the city that they're currently in to a newer city. And, Robert's going to be chasing his dream of becoming a motivational speaker through his life experiences, but he's also going to be utilizing Michael as part of his management team, but then also teaching Michael certain things that he's learned along the way in becoming a motivational speaker. And maybe the future holds that Michael becomes a motivational speaker along with Robert, and they become a tandem in a team. Who knows? But that's what I want to get into your mind. It's about positive messages. It's about understanding that life is hard. Life's a bit of a struggle, but we can get through it. And hopefully, if you guys do choose to, read these books in the series, that I accomplished what I've been saying on these podcasts for the past few weeks. So that's part 4. Next Friday will be part 5, and like I said, there's a shift in the series, and it's a good one. I promise you that. So with that said, that's my podcast for today. I thank you guys all for listening. Stay tuned next week. Once again, it will be Mondays with Mello, Wednesday Motivation Inspiration, and then my books and insight into the struggles and growth of a man, part 5. So I'm out of here. Have a good weekend. Be good, everyone, and go accomplish your goals.